College Algebra. Review Chapters, Section 6, Synthetic Division. What is synthetic division? Well, it's when you don't have to go through all of the long division stuff. For example, if you have x plus 1, and you want to divide that into x to the fifth plus 5x cubed, so you need a 0x to the fourth, and then the 5x cubed. Then we need there's no x squared here, so we got a 0x squared. We've got no x, so it's 0x. And we have a constant negative 10. Okay. So we can do long division and figure this out. X to the fifth over x gives us x to the fourth, which gives us, when we multiply x to the fifth and x to the fourth. Subtract, you get a 0 and a negative x to the fourth. Bring down the next term. So you get this negative x to the fourth over x. So it's a negative x cubed. That times this is a negative x to the fourth minus x cubed. Subtract, you get a 0 and you get 6x cubed. Bring down the next term, 0x squared. 6x cubed over x is 6x squared times x is 6x cubed times 1 is 6x squared. Subtract, you get 0, and this is a negative 6x squared. Bring down the 0x. Negative 6x squared over x is negative 6x. Times this is negative 6x squared. Times that is negative 6x. Subtract, and you get 0. And when you subtract, it would be positive 6x. Bring down the negative 10. 6x divided by x is a positive 6. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 1 is positive 6. Subtract, you get 0 and a negative 16. Now we've gotten the degree less. So this is now a negative 16. I should say plus over x plus 1. Whew. And you can do that if you'd like. But let's remember this. So write this down. X to the fourth minus x cubed plus 6x squared minus 6x plus 6 minus 16 over x plus 1. Okay, I wrote that down too. How would we do this with synthetic division? Well, the book shows you why this works, but it's really quite interesting. You take the coefficients, and you need all the zeros too that are necessary, and you draw it upside down here. So it goes 1, 0, 5, 0, 0, and negative 10. Just the coefficients, and if that term's not there, put in a 0. Now, you're dividing by x plus 1, but since you're subtracting, we're going to use a negative 1, then we'll be able to add all this stuff. So those two come from the problem. Let me pick a different color. In synthetic division, always start with a 0 here and add. Negative 1 and positive 1 is when you multiply, you get negative 1. Then you add these two, negative 1. Multiply by a negative 1, we get a positive 1. Add these two, 6. Multiply by a negative 1, we get a negative 6. Add these two, negative 6. Multiply by a negative 1, we get positive 6. Add these two, positive 6. Multiply by a negative 1, we get negative 6. Add these two, negative 16. Now these are just the coefficients. We started off with x to the fifth, and we're dividing by just this x plus 1, so it's really going to move down to an x to the fourth problem. And that's where you start here. 1 x to the fourth minus 1 x cubed plus 6x squared minus 6x plus 6, and whatever left here is plus a negative 16 over x plus 1. And that's a lot easier than the long division. Does it always work? No. The divisor must be an x minus a type problem. Now, why are we using subtraction here? Because when we did x plus 1, what did we divide by? A negative 1. So think of this as x minus a. Think of this as use the opposite of that sign there, or whatever number for x gives me 0. A lot of different ways that you can think of this. But it's not the 1. It is the negative 1 that you're going to divide by. So we can add instead of subtract. So if you've got a leading coefficient of 1, degree 1, binomial, you can use synthetic division. So the best way to learn this is look at some examples. Let me go to a new screen. Pick another color. So let's suppose I want to divide negative x cubed plus 5x squared plus 8 over x plus 3. Well, the first thing you notice is this is a binomial, degree 1, leading coefficient 1, so I can use synthetic division. I need all of the terms. So I'm going to start out with the cube. It has coefficient negative 1. I need a square, okay, coefficient of 5. I need a linear term, x to the first, not there, put in a 0. And I need a constant, 8. And you can play sort of like your Cape Canaveral. This should be 3, 2, 1, 0. And you can start. What do you divide by? Whatever number gives you 0 here for x, negative 3. The opposite of this, negative 3, whatever you want to think of, it's negative 3. Always start with 0. Add these two. Multiply. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. Add these two. 8. Multiply. Negative 3 positive 8 is negative 24. Add these two. Negative 24. Multiply what's going to be positive, and 3 times 4 is 12, carry the 1, 6, 7. So 72 positive, and 8 is 80. So what is our final answer? Well, remember, we started with a cube, so our answer is going to be a square. A negative x squared plus 8x minus 24, and that last number is going to be the remainder, 80, over the divisor, x plus 3. Does that make sense? It may be wise, I guess, to go through a lot of these. They don't take too long. It gives you 4 steps, even if you're doing, just write down the problem and then do the synthetic division. At least one more. How about 3x to the fourth plus x cubed minus 3x plus 1 divided by x plus 1/3. Can we do that? That's a fraction. Yes, it's got a leading coefficient of 1. It is linear. The degree is 1. So start with fourth. There's 3, and then a cube is 1. Square isn't 1. Linear, negative 3. Constant, positive 1. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. we're now going to divide by a negative 1/3. Now, if you try to do this with decimals, you got to be careful because that's going to be repeating. You should practice your fractions. 3 plus 0 is 3. A negative 1/3, so that's going to be negative. 1/3 times 3 is 1. 1 and negative 1, 0. Negative 1/3 times 0, 0. 0 plus 0, 0. Negative 1/3 times 0, 0. Negative 3, when we add them, now this answer is going to be positive. And 1/3 of 3 is a positive 1. It'll give me a 2. So, started out with a 4th degree. It'll be 3x cubed. No square, no linear, minus 3. Plus the 2 over x plus 1/3. Does this make sense? It's pretty nice if you can do it. Can't always do it. You need long division sometimes. It's got to be linear binomial leading coefficient 1. Well, instead of me going through all these, maybe you should do your assignment, and then you'll be done. 4 steps, easy 4 steps here.